Folks, beauty is truly in the eye of the beholder, and what I can see right here is the most gorgeous country, the best borders to ever exist. What we're looking at is, of course, the South German Federation after we just defeated the Austrian-Hungarians in a war here. It is now 1885, and we have an interesting future ahead of us. We are in the mid-game now, in the deep mid-game, I should say, and slowly but surely things are definitely developing into the sort of extremes that you're used to when it comes to Victoria 3's endgame. We have a massive Great Britain when it comes to the GDP, but I wager that should we meet them head-on in a fight, we could probably at the very least keep up. You know, this GDP number is of course massive, it means a lot, but at the same time you still remain fairly competitive. As it is, I also want to address another thing. We are in a position, of course, where these borders are ugly. Yes, that is what it is, but hey, we're gonna clean that up. What I want to talk about is actually Hungary right here. See, there's one thing that I want to highlight, and that is indeed that if you go to war against another country and then force them to release a different country, that different country will actually have the exact set of laws of the country that just released them. This means that if we go in, for example, against a communist country, let's say we are capitalist, right, and we make them release a country, let's say, I don't know, we release Texas right here from the USA if they are communist, then Texas would also be communist. It's kind of weird. I wish there was more sort of things that you could do about this, you know, which laws you want to see changed and so on and so forth, but since you can't do this, I changed something about Hungary. We released both Croatia and Hungary is much more important in the view of the SGF here, I think. I turned them into a presidential republic with universal suffrage, left every other law the way it is, because of course they are fairly rural, they aren't too literate in comparison to us at the very least, so it makes decent sense. I changed this, I hope that you're okay with this, I just did it because otherwise, yeah, it's just art. They all pick up the laws of the country that they were released from, and that sometimes can amount to basically nothing. Now, speaking of amounting to basically nothing, the SGF, of course, hasn't told all of its story yet. President Johann von Göritz is a very particular man, and we are a very particular country, still underway with our own unification. I mean, all of these territories right here, including South Tyrol as well as Moravia, are indeed homelands of our primary culture, which in this case is South German. You can see all of our homelands right here on this map. We have the vast majority, actually barely the majority, I think, under our control now, but of course there are still various other locations. Now, I gotta tell you, cleaning up Austria-Hungary won't be too difficult. They are split now. This shouldn't be too big a deal. We're gonna do this as we go, but I want to highlight something else, and that is, as we take, for example, Bohemia, obviously we're taking a territory that is actually in the majority not South German. There is a very sizable minority here, 35.7% is nothing to sneeze at. But this now means that we have a big amount of, well, non-Germans in our borders, which is a first in this particular playthrough. We've never really been confronted with this concept, and yet here we are. And there is something I think that I want to highlight that is incredibly important, okay? When we talk about, for example, national supremacy in our law set that we indeed have active right here, we don't talk about an ethno-nationalist point of view in any way, shape or form. The republicanism and the nationalism that is driven by President Johann von Göritz is not fair to, for example, the Czechs, the Hungarians and so on, but it is not centered around actually going against them. They are nowhere near the ethno-nationalist centrism that we can see in other time frames and in other locations. And I'm highlighting this because, honestly, should we ever see a different government, I think President Johann von Göritz is still too keen on actually unifying the South Germans before he would concern himself with, for example, minority issues. Should we ever reach that point, I can absolutely see it, that a different regime, or maybe even Johann von Göritz right here, would maybe start debating maybe we should liberalize when it comes to our cultural laws. I don't think that religion currently is actually up for debate. Religion seems to be a massive part of this country. That when it comes to citizenship, I could definitely see it. What am I saying? I am essentially saying that we are in a similar situation as to the liberals were in 1848, 1849. The people back then were arguing, for example, about the question of Posen. Posen was in a position where the local Polish population wanted self-governance, as of course it makes sense. And initially, various people in the assembly here in Frankfurt said, maybe we should give it to them. Maybe we should allow them this. In the end, the actual constitutional sort of proposal that they came up with here in Frankfurt, that then of course was rejected by virtue of the King of Prussia not accepting, that proposal actually safeguarded various minorities, but as the Congress, as this assembly moved on between 1848 and 1849, they became much less charitable towards national minorities. This is an interesting topic and a topic that we should definitely keep in mind, because as we progress here as a country, of course, that will play a role. I just want to bring it up because there is a massive difference between the way that he sees nation, culture, and society, and the way, for example, later ethno-nationalists would. Whether we will liberalize, though, is a different question. Alright, but first things first, we obviously need to deal with our new territories, and the first thing that we are about to do here is definitely incorporating these states. Now, the second thing that we need to do is definitely take a look at how's our access doing. Honestly, it's doing quite well. I think we can easily bring that up. They probably have some sort of meme. Yep, there it is. If we just take these back, then we will be in a position where our railways will doubtlessly be enough to keep this going. I'm also actually going to subsidize you. I don't think that we're going to stomp down on too many buildings here. We still have unemployed folks as well as peasants. Yep, they are not nearly as, of course, you know, well prepared as we are when it comes to industrialization. But I'm looking at these things and I need to do some minor adjustments here. Give me a moment. Alright, so first things first, I've changed our production methods here so that we shouldn't have any shortages, and I've made it so that we're actually producing a whole lot more in bureaucracy, and so that we are employing as many people as we can. I rolled basically back any of the automation that we might have had. Now, that being said, we are still at a very pivotal point when it comes to our economic and societal shape. What I mean here is that before we went to war, we basically had no consumption taxes, and we were at normal to low taxes, and this has changed. This was the governmental policy of President Johann von Goeritz, of course, to actually get this war done. It was a necessity, and yet, as it happens so often, once you have something implemented, it is very difficult to roll it back. Now, granted, I could just press these buttons, but I'm not going to be doing this. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to start a sort of employment system where we very, very aggressively now try to further the industrialization of our nation. Now, let me just take a look at this. We have, a lot of sulfur shortage here, I guess. Can we do any more sulfur mines? Nope, absolutely not. This should all refresh. This isn't really too big an issue. I think when it comes to paper and when it comes to clothes, we are looking at the most immediate needs of the country. And with that, we shall deal, obviously. I'm going to build a whole bunch here, and then what about whole bunch in Bohemia as well. We are going to expand this industry and become a bit of a titan here. This is, of course, a consumer good, which yet again, obviously, you know, points us into a direction of the Republic appeasing its citizens. So, maybe at some point we will roll back the oppressive tax regime, but I don't think that point is right now. And speaking of regime, we could technically drive these up, but I don't think our wages are currently the issue. I think the issue is that we don't have enough jobs, and we can obviously fix this. I definitely am going to pump this up, since we are not going to make a return to our decrease anytime soon. Maybe in the future, but not right now. And you know what? I actually like the idea, since we have so much left over here. Let's pump up our home affairs. I'm doing this because I'm saying to myself, if I do this, it might also signify a shift in our society, because remember, our home affairs law actually is guaranteed liberties, and at some point, I'm sure, somebody will ask, wait a minute, we say guaranteed liberties, but apparently not for all. What about women? What about minorities? At that point, we might actually explore this. So this is definitely in line with where our society is headed. Alright, and on a diplomatic level, Hungary is definitely something that I would like to be my friend. Now, currently we can't do much, so we just need to wait for this attitude to change, so whenever it does, that would be very beneficial. I want to keep up our relationships with you, and honestly, at least for the moment, we might try to increase this. I don't think... this will basically just maintain relationships. We will have to go against Austria-Hungary, but that is our first objective, so Prussia doesn't need to be an enemy of ours right now. We do have an obligation now, and the Swiss are actually willing to join. Interesting. Alright, yeah, absolutely come into my market. We all belong together. And beyond this, honestly, if we could sort of become friends with Russia at this point, I think it would be very, very beneficial. And frankly, maybe even Romania. The question is, will Hungary and Romania face each other? But I don't have the answer for this. So for the moment, I'll just say, nope, for the moment, I'll actually say, I need this so that I can get rid of my infamy. Yep, okay, we don't have the capacity. Fair enough. Oh, and this one is actually quite interesting right here. Eduard von La Roche-Starkenfels has retired. And I never mentioned it because, well, they are marginalized, but he was a communist. Now, the person that comes after him, also a communist, Gottlieb von Safferling. It looks as though our armed forces are leaning into a much more extreme version of what we are as a republic. Interesting to see. I mean, again, they are marginalized, but We gotta keep track of this. And look at that. The Voice of the Nation was written in Franconia. A group of respectable musical composers teaching at the Arts Academy in Franconia have approached us. They have drawn attention to the alarming lack of a proper national anthem fit to invigorate our people's spirits. Land of fighting, impossible surrender, always threatening the offender. Hence our steps lead the way to drive all our enemies away. This sort of bulwark, mindset, bulwark understanding. If that isn't the position that we're in, then I don't know what it is. Now that is a cool anthem. Thank you so much. Oh, and look at that. Hungary is flipped. I will take an alliance. Absolutely. I would actually... I'm thinking about this. If I declare war against Austria-Hungary, technically I could invite Hungary to get this, but we can do this later as well. Let's form an alliance. Let's make sure that it is understood that we stand together. President Molaner Elana and of course President Johann von Göritz are side by side, an alliance between people that are Republicans and nationalists. Oh wow. And yeah, the Progress Party has actually gotten together with the trade unions right here. The SPD is now just the church. They are social democrats, so that makes a lot of sense. But man, the Progress Party is crushing it. Whether we will even do a government with the Agrarian League is questionable. We might, they have great momentum right here, but maybe they will just be able to govern on their own. And somebody pointed out, I want to say 2 episodes ago, that the United States of America were an oligarchy. They have apparently returned to universal suffrage. They have racial segregation still, right of assembly, so they seem to have democratized yet again. What are you, a moderate, a traditionalist, and a jingoist? No movement to abolish slavery, however. It is very late, obviously, but currently it's very difficult to get slavery sort of away from the US. Did anything happen with Hawaii? No. Okay, interesting. So the US definitely sort of liberalized yet again, but legacy slavery still very much right where it used to be at game start. And oh my god, you know what? I completely missed this. We have synthetic plants? I missed that we had this technology entirely, but in all fairness, it requires sulfur, and we don't exactly have a lot of that. We have a tiny bit right here, and then technically a tiny bit right there. I really do not like that I can't build this up further. This is such an important location, and yet, obviously, it's not quite enough. If we take Venezia, man, that would be... It's so terrible, right, to look at this. This is the border between South and North German, and the entire sulfur deposits of Germany are all up here. I just want a tiny speck of sulfur, okay? A tiny speck. That's all I want. Alright, yep, the election results are in and we crushed it. Now, I don't think we're going to reform this government. It doesn't seem too disastrous here, but look at that. The Progress Party at 40.9%. That definitely screams as though we're going to take a look at reforms. And honestly, I was thinking about this, right? We could go away from... yeah, any of these, really. Migration controls, we could technically reform. Not too interested in that. You know, I will say... I don't think we're feminists. I don't think that ideology is here yet, or at the very least it's not present in our leaders, but I think propertied women make sense. This is liberalization on a new scale, leading to a different society, and I think that makes perfect sense. And I do really feel as though the victim of all of this is actually Italy. So basically, they are now down here, cut off from the market, which is awful. Sardinia-Piedmont has been vassalized by Hungary as a consequence of the war, and although that might not last long, it's still quite significant. And then down here, nobody seems to really be willing to push, either be it for democracy for the people, or well, even for unification. If we support any of these folks here, I would argue, right, it should be the Pope. We are so deeply Catholic right now. Oh, there you go. Very, very nice. We're so deeply Catholic, maybe our second alliance should be with the Pope and we just basically make him form Italy if we can. It's an interesting concept. We'll have to see. Oh, and before I forget, actually, somebody asked, hey, what is going on with the actual migration? Are you getting any? And the answer obviously is no, because again, national supremacy, and as much as we are liberal, national supremacy and state religion make it so that we are very, very narrow when it comes to attractiveness of migrations. I have seen various targets for migration, I believe, and nope, this is the wrong map mode. I believe that actually not too long ago, the South Germans were migrating. Yeah, I can't spot them anywhere, so honestly I'm not sure where they went, but they went somewhere. The North Germans also were going somewhere, I can't tell you where either. Be that as it may, people are migrating, as of course it is meant to work. Yeah, no, I can't see anybody right here. And we're looking at a situation where that makes a lot of sense. We're seeing a lot of migration right here in the New World. We have a decent amount of when it comes to population in the US in general. Croatian Serbians, we got British Welsh. They're not doing too hard, it seems. Then right here we got Finnish Swedish. That's a lot of people migrating all around. And although, again, we have a high migration attraction, ultimately we are so restrictive, we're just not a good target. Ooh, and Hungary has declared Romania to be their rival. Yeah, okay. Fair enough. I don't think we can be friends with both here, so I'll choose Hungary. Whatever. That's completely reasonable. Oh, and oh boy, the Swiss seem to be having a small war against one another. The radical Swiss are asking for protected speech, if I'm seeing this right here. Maybe even private health insurance. Nope, they just got that, huh? Well, anyway, they are asking for a general liberalization. I'm not against that, mind you. But we have good relationships with them, and if they want slight censorship, so be it. I don't think violence internally is the answer. Or rather, obviously, this also secures the power of the South German Federation. With Switzerland under our thumb, we're looking at France not really being able to threaten us. And look at that, Sardinia-Piedmont, now as a constitutional monarchy, has won its rebellion against Austria-Hungary. Wow, they would be great allies as well. I'll just tell you straight up, they would be amazing allies. I'm going to go ahead and improve. Nope, that is Jesus Christ. Where's all this going? I need to stop I need to stop myself here because we desperately need this infamy to go down. The defensive pact with Saxe-Weimar is ridiculous. Honestly, we're letting this go. This is out. Get out of here. And instead, I'm going to influence Sardinia-Piedmont. We might see a compromise here. I want Venezia, but Lombardy could go to them indeed, and we have worked together in the past, and especially now that they're actually a constitutional monarchy under King Giacomo Pallavicino, we might actually be in a pretty good spot. The question here really is, republic or religion? What do you go for? They are very, very backwards here in the Papal States. Big question. Oh, and this one is so interesting. So, the Swiss are definitely going to win against the rebellion, which is fair enough. I asked them, or I was waiting for a favor, they didn't give it to me, who cares? Now, this is the North Italian uprising against Austria-Hungary. And I'm pretty sure, if the North Italian uprising wins, then they would just join together with Sardinia-Piedmont. I may be wrong here, but I believe this is accurate. Now, what I'm thinking is, if they have anything to offer to me, maybe I'll say yes. If they don't offer anything to me, I'll stay neutral, okay? Austria-Hungary is mobilizing here. I wonder how many troops they actually have in the south that they can, you know, have fight. And obviously under shortages, but maybe the pure manpower will do it. We'll have to see how this goes. This is an interesting uprising. It definitely has potential. They are very slow at mobilizing here. And it doesn't look as though we're going to get invited. Listen, I'm not just going to be on your side, okay? That's not how this works. Oh, and look at that. Yep, they are gonna get crushed right here. This is the last attempt to keep it together by Kaiser Franz Josef von Habsburg. They are going to smash this liberation war by Sardinia-Piedmont's allies, and, I mean, we'll swoop in afterwards, eh? And there is now a major European war breaking out, which is good for us, I think, all things considered, because, well, our truce isn't all that long anymore with Austria-Hungary, and as long as they're busy, that is good for us. This is a maneuver where France is basically saying we would like a treaty port, and this treaty port would then allow them, obviously, to get market access to the Great Qing. Prussia is not really interested in that, but they are interested in taming Russia, because if Russia were tamed, they couldn't be our friends, which they might very well become. The humiliation would make it so that Russia cannot join any play that Prussia is in against Prussia. We'll see how that goes. Let's hope that this isn't a long play against us. And Jesus Christ, they are throwing everything at it that they can. So this is now France and Russia against the Great Qing, Prussia, and the Ottoman Empire. This is relevant because the Ottoman Empire might actually become recognized again if they indeed succeed with this war, which honestly might be possible, seeing how there is quite this stiff opposition now to the French and Russians. This is an interesting war. Whether it will be a successful one remains to be seen. Alright, and things are going very interestingly. Prussia is winning this, which might mean that the Ottoman Empire gets recognized, but this is a war goal against France, so honestly this is probably just going to time out. Be that as it may, Russia seems to be out of the competition against Prussia. I have also actually returned to a bit more of a civil society. I've gotten rid of a bunch of consumption taxes, and we're back to the normal levels right here. What I would like to do now is reassign a whole bunch of our decrees. And yeah, look at these elections, nothing much is changing, it's basically all quite the same, and this is excellent for us because it just confirms the direction of Johann von Göritz, making it so that until we unify at the very least the south and maybe all of Germany, we're probably not going to see much of a change in attitude of the country. Alright, and I have just switched our production method here to siege artillery, which is just a wonderful addition to our collection. As soon as, you know, let's say 6 months are over, we are going to go ahead, I think, and declare war against Austria-Hungary once more in an attempt to finish at least, you know, I don't know. It seems to be extremely expensive to claim things, and so with that, we'll see how much we can actually claim, okay? Alright, now let's take a look at this. We have 11.3 infamy. There's no way around it. Whatever we do here, whatever we take, however we blob, we will agitate the people around us because it will cause massive infamy. The highest I think that I'm willing to go is 75. And that is a really, really high amount. Don't get me wrong here. But I think that is what I'm willing to eat when it comes to at least taking, you know, some of our additional provinces here. Maybe even Moravia. We'll see. Listen, we're going to start this just by conquering this state. 23.7 infamy. You are out of your mind. Jesus Christ. Okay. What else do we have? Oh my god, these costs, this is insane. I would like to conquer, you know, honestly, like, I'm just, this is awful to look at. We're now at 52. I can add technically one more of these. What about South Tyrol? Can I do it via this? Nope, I can't. Okay. Conquer state, South Tyrol, 16.2, and that should put us, yeah, roughly where I wanted to be. And then, with the rest of our actions, I think we're going to go ahead and I'm going to liberate countries. We're going to liberate Galicia-Lodomeria. Can't be a question about it. And then we are also going to liberate Moldavia, I guess. It makes the most sense just border-wise. Yeah, sure. Let's do this. And this is the last thing that I can do. Maybe I should just actually claim more territory. You know, I'm looking at this. I think we gotta. What about Moravia? Let's take Moravia. Sure. And that puts us at a nasty 92.4. You gotta do what you gotta do, okay? That hurts, but you gotta do what you gotta do. They will definitely all hate us now, just for the record. Like, everybody. They might even jump into this. We'll have to see. Yeah, and no surprise. Obviously, Prussia is going to jump into this. And Jesus Christ, Prussia knows that this is everything. So, Prussia, now actually in this war, only got... all they got from Austria right here is actually just an obligation. They're not even gonna get the promise anymore of becoming the German leader. That time is over. Alright, so that means we now just need to hold the front line, and that is all we need to do. The rest we can simply conquer and we'll be fine. Let's mobilize. Oh, amazing. Switzerland sided with Austria-Hungary. Come on, man. You son of a gun. I don't even need to actually, you know what, we don't need to attack. We can just defend. I mean, it makes sense. Again, we are hyper-aggressive. Listen, it's what the AI does, right? The AI is programmed to say, like, no, no step further. This is it. Obviously, we can't let that happen, but I get it. Alright, and this is the war. So nobody else joined. I'm actually quite happy with that. I think we can just hold the line right here. I think we'll be totally fine. This should be very, very easy. I did even see that Austria is actually in default, meaning all their troops, beyond being undersupplied, are absolutely worthless. Yeah, look at that. Austria-Hungary is in bankruptcy. We're going to be just fine, I think. Well, and quite frankly, there was nothing worth showing in this war. It was pretty straightforward. I just wish we could have gone even further, but would you look at that? Okay, listen. Things could be better, things could be worse, but the reality is this: we already look so much better. Man, we look kinda cute, honestly. I wanna obviously expand further down there, but I think it is fair to say we've dismantled Austria-Hungary pretty thoroughly, making it so now at this point that Moldavia and Galicia-Lodomeria are completely independent. I'm going to leave them the way they are. You're obviously, what are you, Orthodox and Ukrainian-Polish. Man, this is a powerful tag, you know? This could be a massive country. And then Moldavia, I mean, I'll leave that to Romania. That's not my business. We have finished yet another war, and it was without a doubt a successful one. And oh my god, so we have another election. You can see the Progress Party is tanking, as is the SPD is pushing through now under Joachim Stolze, who, didn't he used to be incredibly unpopular? What happened to him? Wasn't he a bandit? How did he get rid of the bandit trait? Does that work? Is there any sort of trait progression? Or was it just like a temporary debuff? I can't remember, but look at this event. For whom the bell tolls. The aged Johann von Göritz, leader of the intelligentsia, has unexpectedly expired mid-campaign, robbing the Progress Party of a cornerstone politician. The question of his replacement is now on everyone's lips. There goes Johann von Göritz, and I'm gonna tell you this right now. Obviously, we need to wage another war, and it's a huge amount of infamy, but he has achieved everything. Look at this. I'm currently building a whole bunch of government administration so that we can incorporate everything. But man, this man is a legend for better or for worse. What is going to come next here? The determined but haughty youngster secures the chair. You know, if anything, and they definitely seem like they're going to have a bit of a downfall here when it comes to the election pivot, but if anything, I would argue, that the intelligentsia will keep trying. Maybe they're going to go too far, whatever that might mean. I want something that is a bit chaotic. Let's choose a determined but hearty youngster. What does that actually mean? Karl Federer, an anarchist. And he's not all too disliked. Wow. That is a radical departure. I mean, they drop down even further. The SPD goes up even higher, and clearly the wind of change, now that we have completed this situation, is actually coming in. And it's interesting, obviously, the territory that we are actually claiming here, right, Tyrol, Styria, and Southern Tyrol, they are in a position where they were incredibly poor and opened this journal entry. It feels a bit weird because the journal entry acts as though Frankfurt is the starving location, but be that as it may, obviously there is some poverty amongst our countrymen, and all of a sudden the trade unions say we want to take care of this, and the intelligentsia seem to have gone even further. Maybe we're going to go anarchist. It might quite possibly be our future. Oh, right, I overlooked this. Okay, now that we have an anarchist in government, obviously this is what we're getting. Triumph of the intelligentsia, with socialist ideas sweeping across the South German Federation. I mean, I'll tell you this is actually incredibly accurate. Our leaders are all socialists. Kurt Federer of the intelligentsia has been appointed to a leading position in the government. Let me just double check this, yeah. There's sufficient momentum for a rapid policy change, right. So either way, they will always be selecting vanguardist communists or anarchist leaders. Other interest groups are much more likely to select vanguardist communist anarchists. Yep, fair enough. Other interest groups are much more likely to select vanguardist communist anarchist leaders. So this doesn't change anything. It just gives us... Oh, the armed forces, they're still communists. Oh my god. This is such a communist... republic right here. That is crazy. What we're gonna do is, I think, I would like... So, obviously, wage subsidies is interesting. We might pass this, but what I would actually like is the armed forces to become a bit stronger. So, you know what? I'm gonna say pass laws protecting trade unions in general. Alright, now let's talk about government. Joachim Stolzer obviously won. We will have a fairly illegitimate government if we were to kick out the intelligentsia. If we leave them in here... Oh, right, because the industrialists and the intelligentsia are in one party. That can't be for long. Yeah, I mean, you can even see it, right? They are market liberals and they are drawn towards the Progress Party, whereas the Progress Party itself is kind of like, I don't know how I feel about this. Listen, here's what we're going to do. We're going to form a government between the SDP, the SPD, my apologies, and the Agrarian League. We could technically even get rid of the Agrarian League, but let's leave it like this for the moment, okay? This will be our government under Joachim Stolzer. We're not forgetting the achievements of the intelligentsia, but currently they are clearly in a bit of turmoil. Otherwise, they might actually join the SPD and have a fighting chance. Instead, they're currently working together with the industrialists. I mostly just think that this is political turmoil. Don't worry about the details here too much. What is the state of this country? We're looking at rural folk under Arnulf Gerber that are traditionalists. They want to maintain things, but traditionalism in this republic has always been a bit more difficult. I think ultimately what they're against is anarchism. So I think that if we are entering a coalition between the Social Democrats and the traditionalists, we're doing this against anarchism. This means that we might still do social reforms, but not in the name of anarchism. Maybe we might do national supremacy. We might alter this right here. The Catholic Church would be against it. No, you know what? The intelligentsia now, very clearly, is in favor of cultural exclusion. We are not. If the intelligentsia were to re-emerge and actually take control of the country, I think we would liberalize our laws here. But this clearly can't be the way for the moment. What are we going to pass? What are we going to pass with this new government? Man, I'm interested, because what we have right here now is actually a government that in the last 40 years of the game might go towards anarchy, might go towards radical, just, you know, socialism, or rather a top-down socialism, or it might just actually form and stabilize a sort of social democrat rule majority. When I look at this, right, what would we like to do? Professional army is viable, no police, cultural exclusion, cooperative ownership, right? It's just not viable, obviously, because we don't have a council republic, and I can't pass it either, of course. Let me check. And you know what we're gonna do? I think we're gonna go towards wage subsidies. We could technically do old age pension. Ah, that's a great question, but this is 100% in line with the government. Wage subsidies or old age pension? That is the big question right here. Workforce ratio goes down a bit, which I'm actually kind of a fan of. I think we're gonna go, you know what? Let's push it to wage subsidies. This is the compromise between the traditionalists and the social democrats. Again, all basically to spite the anarchists. Interesting developments here for sure, man. I gotta tell you, We might tear ourselves apart, we might not do it, and we might change whether we perceive ourselves as this radical sort of German republic or as a social democrat republic first and foremost. And what a way to go, man. The power vacuum that our dear Johann von Göritz left behind made way for such a radical movement. I am so excited to learn where this is going long term for sure. Yeah, I cannot, honestly, even looking over this now, I cannot overstate just how massive the shift that we have just undergone after finishing our conquest, after Johann von Göritz disappeared, and the vacuum that then opened up to let all of these radical powers enter the political sphere. This has massively influenced where we stand with the world. I mean, look at this. 10 out of 10 folks are supporting Prussia, who are an incredibly backwards country, but much less threatening to the order in general compared to ourselves. If we were to actually form Germany, it would be by force against a northern Germany that is indeed quite conservative. I am so eager to explore this further. Yeah, you know what? I'm looking at this right now and I'm saying to myself, we are having this challenge right here. Obviously, we are a social democrat-minded country, or at least a socialist-minded country, I guess. But with the intelligentsia out of government, with the trade unions and the rule folk leading this government together with the Catholic Church, man, this shift in power is so dramatic, it's actually insane to take a look at. But I'm thinking, we're going to continue with this. Language in the classroom without a doubt. School should teach them to speak the proper language and... Oh, and Kurt Federer immediately dies and leaves Otto Aldinger behind, a direct traditionalist commander and vanguardist. Wow, a vanguardist has now emerged, and... that means that they will be joining the SPD in the next election. Very, very curious. Listen, here's the way I see this. We're currently having a debate whether we should see ourselves as a social democrat or socialist or communist country first that should probably liberalize its religion, its, for example, laws around culture, or whether we should finish off what we have started by going for all of Germany. This will be an incredibly interesting question towards the last 40 years here. Man, I am really happy, or rather, I'm excited by how things turned out. Obviously, we are a pariah, which isn't all that confusing, seeing how much we conquered in just the last episodes, but man, this will be chaotic, and I'm here for it. For the moment, though, I will leave you with this. Let's see where this republic goes, whether it will become communist, whether we are the ones to overcome all of the bourgeoisie and the aristocracy, or whether we stick to German ideals and become just another nation state. Let's see where this goes. I am interested in either way, and you let me know what you think. I will see you later. Alligator.